หัวข้อถัดไปนะคะจะเป็นหัวข้อเรื่อ
The
งเกี่ยว
next
กับ
session will be on the fighting fraud and corruption with open contracting by Kun Nanda Sihombing, the Asia Manager of Open Contracting Partnership.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Nanda Sihombing. I'm the Asia Manager for the Open Contracting Partnership. So today we're going to discuss a little bit about how to use digitalized data to fight corruption. So first of all, thank you for UNODC for inviting the OCP here, and then I'm excited to be here along with the experts of the anti-corruption in Thailand. I'm having a little bit of internet problem, so let me know if I pause or you can't hear me clearly, and then I'll repeat my presentation a bit. So again, thank you. Excited to be here with the amazing group of experts of anti-corruption agenda. The objective of the session is on how to utilize digital data for the identification of cases of corruption and fraud in public procurement. So to put in context, why is public procurement so important? How does it affect you? What are the problems? First of all, there is a huge amount of money in public procurement. Every year, governments spend 13 trillion US dollar on contracts on everything from pencils and paper to building major infrastructure projects such as airports. And 1/3 of every dollar spent by government is on government contracting. This is equivalent to 15% of global GDP. And if you can imagine a pile of $1 notes stretching from the earth to the moon and back, that's a lot of money. And but unfortunately, procurement is government's #1 corruption risk. 50% of OECD foreign bribery cases involve bribes for public contracts. And 30% companies say corruption prevented them from winning contracts in the European Union. Now, what about in Thailand? In Thailand, 13.5 billion is spent on public procurement processes, and Thailand ranked in 2020 on the Corruption Perception Index 104, and it's just slightly below Indonesia, where I'm at right now. There are also more than 2 out of 5 businesses that says gifts are expected to secure government contracts, and that procurement fraud most frequently occurred during quote and bid solicitation, vendor selection, vendor contracting, and maintenance processes. So COVID, the pandemic right now, it has exacerbated these challenges. Crisis situations are ripe for corruption due to soaring funding levels. Government spent more than 100 billion on COVID-19 contracts in the first 4 months of the pandemic alone. Second, there's reduced financial controls. The third one, there's frequently changing or flood of new actors. So low levels of transparency, digitization, and coordination have created sort of like a Hunger Games scenario as hospitals, public health agencies, national and local governments scramble to compete to purchase essential equipment, medicine, and services. And millions upon millions of dollars have been squandered on questionable purchases, including like ventilators that have never arrived in Israel, test tubes that turn out to be soda bottles in the USA. We have even seen a case where a raspberry farm in Bosnia scored a $6 million contract to supply ventilators. Would you buy a ventilator from Raspberry Farm? But it is not always corruption. It can just as often be incompetence. This is an example of what can happen when project planning or coordination breaks down. It's a public project in this picture, a Lithuanian school. So you can see here, there's no stalls or cubicles. And then this is supposed to be girls' changing room. And we can imagine if this happens in normal times, what can we expect in times of crisis? So that's as a background. This is where open contracting can help. A transparent public procurement process can help. And here's how it plays out in practice. So open contracting is a global norm. It has been endorsed by the G20 through its anti-corruption, open data principles, principles for promoting integrity in public procurement, and compendium of good practices for infrastructure, among others. The open contracting also complements initiatives such as EITI, extractive industries, transparency initiatives, and costs, BOGP, open government partnership, or beneficial ownership data standard, and many others. So who are we? What is open contracting? So Open Contracting Partnership, or OCP, works with government, businesses, civil society to transform public procurement to deliver better goods, services, and works for everyone. Using the power of open data and effective participatory mechanism, we help to reduce corruption, improve efficiency, enhance competition, build credibility and trust, and deliver better value for money. So at the core of our work, there are two open data standards which help stakeholders publish and use standardized, structured, machine-readable open data in a timely manner, so that it is easier to understand what works and what doesn't, and from there introduce reform. So what are data standards? Why are they important? Now, a data standard sets out how to format data so that it is standardized and machine readable. Let's take a look at this example. Is this 3rd July or is this 7th March? In Indonesia, it will be 3rd July. In US, it will be 7th of March. How many different ways are there of writing the date? How would an analyst or computer program work with dates in different formats? A data standard resolves ambiguity and helps different systems work out how to interpret information. So you can make sense of the data and you can compare like for like. It makes the data interoperable. But why? Why do we need data standards? So using the data standard also unlocks a network effect. Data can be aggregated, linked, and compared more easily. So what are the data standards? We have two, OCDS and OC4RDS. The first one is OCDS, called Open Contracting Data Standard. It covers all contracting processes from start to finish, from planning to bidding, award, and contract implementation. So OCDS is about describing contracting process, not tenders, not contracts, but the whole process from planning through the delivery and payment. OCDS defines a unique contracting process as all the planning, tendering information, awards, contracts, and contracts implementation related to one single initiation process. One initiation process may be a tender, a direct contract award, or a call to award a concession. An individual contracting process has many different stages. So we bring data together with a single contracting process identifier called the OCID. What does it mean? It means that users can easily access, join up all data across the whole contracting process. This is a key feature and benefit of publishing and using OCDS data. Second one is OC4IDS, Open Contracting for Infrastructure Data Standard. This covers both contracting information and project level information. This is because infrastructure projects often involve multiple contracts. So the OC4IDS let you see not just what is happening at the contract level, as you can see at the bottom one, but also how a project is performing overall. These data standards are the basis for building and sharing tools that use and analyze this information. Without publishing through OCDS data, many of the benefits of publishing to a data standard are missed. Like publishing OCDS data means a quality assurance. There's automatic checks that published data is in the correct structure and format and contains the required field. Second one is that it has access to a developing ecosystem of reusable tools and methodologies for working with OCDS data. It also means that definition of each field in the data and guidance, templates, and documentations describing how to publish and use the data. The data can also be compared with other publishers to understand value for money and other types of analysis. An international standard and a community and publishers and users to learn from and share your work with is also another benefit of publishing the OCDS. So how do these data standards advance our mission? So we measure and share results from the open contracting, including reduced corruption, improved competition, improved efficiency, and better value for money. So it is important to note that each use case has different data needs, and therefore different types of data and documents should be considered for publication. That being said, not every publisher, not every country should aim to publish everything, as the standard is permissive with only a few required fields, and we encourage partners to publish information in accordance with the objectives of the reform. In many cases, publication is iterative, with more information added as it becomes more feasible, both legally and technically. Think about OCDS Insight, like Intel Insight. When OCDS is fully implemented, we should have at least these benefits, among many others, like good identifiers, common classification, and interoperable and comparable data. OCDS Insight is just the foundation, though. Publishing OCDS isn't the end goal. OCDS is a tool to help achieve the aims of open contracting. The data standard is a mean to an end, not an end in itself. The example, so how does it actually look like in practice? In Colombia, they include open contracting and open contracting data standard in 2 of their Open Government Partnership National Action Plan for 4 years, so from 2015 to 2019. Throughout those years, they radically transformed the procurement system from closed to open. The government then uncovered a price-fixing scheme in Bogota, where suppliers colluded to keep prices high. Like chicken drumsticks were being charged at $20 per drumstick, which was 4 times higher than in the markets. Plus, many school meals were not delivered to schools, even though they had been paid for. So children were going hungry. In addition, it was discovered that the way school meals were tendered prevented many suppliers from participating, as they were required to provide the food, fruits, vegetables, etc. In addition to providing the food, they have to also distribute and deliver it to the schools. So smaller suppliers did not have the capacity to do both. The open contracting approach enabled the procurement process to be reformed so that contracts could be unbundled so that more suppliers can participate. As a result, supplier diversity increased by over 350%, going from only 12 suppliers to 55 suppliers. At the same time, the quality of the food has also increased. Now 700,000 school meals are delivered every day. So we've talked about a data standard for open contracting called OCDS, and how those standards can be used to identify red flags in public procurement. Now, where does the red flag standard come from, you might ask? So in OCP, we developed a guidance for identifying red flags with input with some of our partners and different stakeholders in procurement. With this guide, we research on different red flags and then map them against the OCDS. I can share you the link to resources after the session. But this is what our red flag guide looks like. It covers the contracting phase, the associated corruption scheme, the red flag related to that scheme, a description of the indicator, like the contacts. And it also includes the OCDS fields needed to calculate it. So OCDS has some standard or base fields that are the most common fields you can find in procurement data, but you can also include additional fields with extensions. This is being used all over the world, including Mexico, Paraguay, Indonesia, and many other countries, like the examples we just saw. So many of our partners have already used our methodology to develop red flags tool. Like this one is Mampu, the Ministry of Finance in Malaysia from the previous administration. In this example from Malaysia, it's called Cartellogy. They uses the open contracting red flags methodology to identify potential collusion at the bidding or tender stage to proactively prevent corruption from happening. So before the contract is even awarded, instead of just addressing it after it had happened. Their indicators include if there is only one bid per tender, also collusion patterns, like for example, some companies who bid, win and lose together. Like when X company wins, Y and Z bidders always lose, or losing bidders have high number of bid losses compared to their wins, which means that it gives the impression of a legitimate competition, but bidder has no intention of ever winning. Their indicators also include the rotation of winning bidders, like first company A wins, then company B, then C, and then repeat, like it goes on and on. Another one is also like multiple companies with one beneficial owner repeatedly win. So for this one, they join up procurement data with beneficial ownership data to create algorithms to identify potential collusion at the tender stage. This is another example in Paraguay. The NCP in Paraguay, their National Procurement Agency, have developed a reporting tool that publishes red flags, so users can see entities that are being flagged. These examples show entities that do not publish their procurement plans and entities that use single sourcing or direct words. They are also working with academics on how to incorporate and automate red flags within their procurement system to detect suspicious tenders. They are running algorithms using red flags to filter suspicious tenders to reduce the process of manually investigating such tenders. Another example in Mexico, the red flags used for monitoring to calculate scores and indices. So this tool, developed by media organization in Mexico, where they analyze procurement data and adapt the red flag methodology alongside other indexes and measurements to calculate scores on different dimensions. For example, like transparency, competition, accountability, and calculate particular red flags for them and calculate composite scores based on red flags. It can also be used as inspiration for academic research too. This is an example of one we did years ago, focused on late payments, and we focused on this to identify inefficiencies in payment systems and the cost of the delay was helpful to identify inefficiencies and improve on them. Another example for the red flags using data standard is that this in Chile, an NGO working with the procurement entity to develop a red flag methodology for an automated red flag tool for the procurement authority to be able to filter contracts for further investigation. So their indicators include the percentage of bids with only one bidder, the number of bids received per tender that is significantly below average, and also the high number of contracts awarded to one or few companies. Another one is from the Ukraine. So the government, businesses, and civil society in the Ukraine, they also adapted the open contracting approach to build a world-class transparent procurement system called ProZorro. They do it to rebuild trust with both citizens and local businesses. So ProZorro has now run over 26,000 tenders for $240 million in goods. And the platforms, the analysis in the platforms, it has achieved, the government has achieved savings over $1 billion in its first year of operation alone. There's also 1,000 of new suppliers, like an increase of about 45%, flooded the market, and then their corruption perception index is also cut into half after they're implementing the ProZorro. So in addition, to that, because this is the government's initiative, and then the initiative does not stop at the government side. Civil society monitoring was also embedded as part of the reform called the Dozoro platform. So since the launch in 2016, there are more than 700,000 users have flagged nearly 74,000 concerns, and they have 50% fixed rate so far. This is what it looks like. Our partners developed a monitoring management system for the CSOs and built a community of civil societies united by a common goal. We designed a platform where civil society organizations were able to see the riskiest tenders according to the red flags methodology that I just showed you. They used gamification to incentivize monitoring via Dozoro coins and badges. Imagine something like a game where members can participate, like in TripAdvisors or Zomato apps. In 3 years, the Dozoro community, as they call themselves, has uncovered violations in over 30,000 tenders with an estimated value of $4 billion. More than 100,000 people use procurement monitoring system each month, and violations have been fixed in 14% of the cases. And this is the same approach is also adjusted in Indonesia, adopted and adjusted. This is the example of civil society monitoring of red flag indicators that was developed in collaboration with the Indonesian National Public Procurement Agency. So ICW, Indonesia Corruption Watch, they use 7 indicators for these red flags based on the available existing data, something like the tender duration, comparison between contract value and owner's estimate, high contract value, tenders with less than 20 characters, shady title, tender with a description of less than 60 characters, procurement that happens in the 4th quarter, like the one in October, November, December, and another one is a repeat winner. So not only do the platform benefit the civil society network at the national and local level, even internal auditors find the red flag tools useful to help them with their audit samplings work. There's even growing academia interest in analyzing procurement data. So to sum up the benefits of red flagging, it's better and quicker to detect irregularities. We can also push for improvement in the procurement cycle, and it also allows better monitoring. Now, us from the OCP, we can help you by scoping how OCDS can help you to achieve your goals. We can help you review your open contracting commitments, policies, and legislation, or answer questions on open contracting and OCDS. We can also signpost you, direct you to any open contracting documentations, resources, and tools. Or we can also provide online trainings and workshops on open contracting. In addition to that, we also have some templates guidance, and then we can help you review the TOR or draft and publish data and to support tool development. These are some of the key resources that we have. I'll share the PowerPoint with the organizers after this, and you can access this yourself. So that's it from me, and I know it's a lot. There's a lot of information there. So if there is any questions, or I would like to ask questions if there is any examples that I've mentioned before from other countries can be adapted to Thailand context, or is it possible? What are the procurement data that you have or should have so we can identify red flags in Thailand's anti-corruption through public procurement agenda? Thank you.